All right, we're back. Episode 60 and something of Marketing Operators. We just wrapped up Memorial Day. It is May 28th. Connor Rolane, how are sales and how's your weekend?
Sales are good. Yeah, we had I'm always worried going into Memorial Day after Mother's Day because the offer's somewhat the same and we just always have monster Mother's Days, but we had a very pleasant Memorial Day. We beat projections. And I don't know what it was about this last weekend of the sale this year, but the growth we saw from the first weekend of the sale to the last weekend right before Mother's Day this year was way, way, way higher than it was last year. So I don't really know what it's from, honestly, but Monday yesterday or 2 days ago, we were very pleasantly surprised at the revenue we did. So I don't know if you guys saw something similar. I was going to ask if you noticed anything and you saw a similar trend. But yeah, last year, I think Sunday to Monday, we grew single digit percentage points. This year was really, really big growth number. I don't really know what it was from.
Yeah, no, I've got some thoughts there. Cody, how did your guys' weekend shape up?
So you're saying it was back weighted? Is that what you're saying? It was more revenue.
And that's always the case, but even more so this year. I was shocked at the delta from last Sunday to this Monday.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think we underspent. I'm okay with it. So we missed revenue, we missed units, but we hit contribution margin. So I'm okay with it. I do think we underspent, but we did find the same thing where we were under significantly first few days, and so I think we just kind of were not super aggressive and pulled back. And last few days, where I think normally we hit it harder, and then the offer fatigues, especially when we do it for a week or 10 days. So yeah, we found the same thing, and I don't know about you guys, but I saw some optimism on DTC Twitter in the first time in a while. I don't know if you guys felt that, but nice, refreshing change of pace.
Yeah, 100%. I've mentioned this a couple times. We've never done a Memorial Day sale before. We typically kick off Father's Day mid-May and then run that up through Father's Day essentially. So by far our best Memorial Day sale ever. The team crushed it.
Nice.
The couple interesting observations, I've got no benchmark for whether it was front or back loaded more or less year over year. I know that we crushed the weekend. So switching up the messaging seemed to benefit it a lot, and we get to drive urgency. And then the other thing I thought was really interesting from a paid perspective is historically this mid to late May period, we really begin to see women's acquisition improve with just gifting messaging. So typically at this point, late May, we are spending more and seeing higher ROAS with women. But this year with Memorial Day, we actually saw much higher ROAS with men. So it almost felt like switching up the messaging, driving urgency around Memorial Day, and it being a shopping period where you're not necessarily shopping for gifts, seemed to disproportionately benefit men's acquisition. And then what we're hoping for is that we can quickly pivot into Father's Day gifting messaging and kind of capture the same amount of value. So we will see, but those are some of the takeaways for us from the weekend. Also, countdown timers work really well. I don't know if people have heard about this in marketing, spin to win pop-ups, countdown timers, stuff like that. People use them for a reason. We saw that work nicely.
Congrats on your best ever Memorial Day.
Yes, thank you. And now we have to anniversary it. Now we're committed to Memorial Days every single year. So a lot to look forward to. Cool, but we can get into it. We've got a bit of an agenda here. Before we begin, thank you to our sponsors, Motion, Rich Panel, Aftersell, Prescient, and House, as always. Without them, we wouldn't be able to geek out on marketing every week.
Okay, I just sent my entire team an email about this training that Motion's putting on, and you guys are going to block your calendars for this. Every operator I talk to is thinking about how to build lean teams and become more efficient. And AI is an obvious part of this. We talk about it on the Marketing Operators all the time because it can automate time-consuming parts of the creative strategy process. And Motion, our sponsor, They're doing a live virtual event series with 5 sessions on how to adapt timeless advertising principles to the new era of AI-first ad production. This is their legendary virtual event series, Make Ads That Convert. Last year, over 11,000 DTC marketers registered for it, and it is going to be a banger. Listen to these topics and just an elite cast of the best experts. You'll hear from names like Alex Cooper, Jimmy Slagle, Jacob Possell, Dara Denny, Kelly Rocklin, Morella Crespi, and Barry Hott. A few of the topics that they're going to go over: using AI for deep customer research, advanced prompting techniques for ads that don't look AI generated, making sure your AI ads actually sell physical products, using AI actors and voice models for scalable UGC, building a lean AI augmented team of 2025. Here's one session that really caught my eye. It features Kelly Rocklin, and she is going deep into using AI to make scalable UGC with AI actors and voiceovers without it sounding cringe, how to spin up high volume messaging tests using AI agents, super interested in what she's learned here, expand on what already works without replacing the human spark that makes it work in the first place, how to test creative like a craftsperson, not a chaos agent, how to build internal creative testing systems for your AI creative, just to name a few. It's going to be really, really good. Highly recommend registering. If you want to check it out, go register for this. It's free and it's 5 total sessions. You can register at motionapp.com/make-ads-that-convert. That is motionapp.com/make-ads-that-convert.
We're getting into the weeds of meta advertising here and the important metrics. The new metric. That's all caps, trademark, the new metric. Cody introduced it. What is your most controversial meta opinion, Cody?
Well, I mean, I'll share what it is, but the funny thing is, like, normally on Twitter, you can say something that's like very true, like today is a Wednesday, and you'll get people arguing with you, be like, no, it's not. I was like, this is my most controversial opinion. Not a single argument. Even Barry Hott, who normally will argue with anything, came and agreed with it.
Okay, what was it?
What did I say? I'll pull it up. I always, by the way, whenever you send the episode plan over right before the show and I see a screenshot of my tweet ahead of, like, on the top of it, I always get a little worried.
Yeah.
Because
I've got to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
You got to go back to the headspace that you were in when you tweeted it.
Yeah. My most controversial meta opinion these days is cost per 1,000 accounts reach is the most important metric if you're spending 7 figures monthly on a purchase objective. Did you see how I like elaborated on that? So I gave it some nuance because I knew that people were going to be like, but that doesn't apply to us. And I was like, if you qualify for you. So
we're learning.
I'm learning, maturing. I think, we talk obviously a lot about reach. And so again, specifically on a purchase objective, I've just seen anecdotally that like our best performing campaigns that have the best 1-day click ROAS, the most incrementality with however we're measuring it, and also the best % of new visits also have the lowest cost per 1,000 accounts reached. And there's been multiple tests that we've ran recently that we've fortunately been able to see some improvements in there, which is very nice because it's something we struggle with. And it's something that now I'm tracking very closely.
Cody, when you say accounts reached, are you using, because CPM, cost per 1,000 impressions, is obviously like the cost per eyeball metric most people are familiar with. Are you just using reach as the number that you're calculating it off of instead of impression? So it's cost per unique eyeballs instead of just total?
Exactly, but it's not a custom metric. It's like a standard column or metric that Meta has. You have to add it to your columns. But yeah, so really instead of looking at what's our cost per every impression, what's our cost for every new impression that we're serving?
What kind of delta are you seeing between CPM and cost per accounts reached?
So depending on the bidding and optimization strategy, some pretty big ones. But I mean, on a 7-day period, so it's much higher, right? Because like our frequency on a 7-day period gets into like the 2s and 3s. On our best campaign that has these new bidding strategies, we're at a 1.6. And so we are, we're less, and we had a promo period, so it's higher. But let's say we have like a $35 CPM on average, $36 CPM on average, just what we see in beauty. Our cost per 1,000 accounts reached is anywhere between $56 and $130.
Okay.
Really just depends on the frequency to that. But that $56 is, less than half of our other. And that's on this like new bidding strategy, but we're rolling out a few tests and seeing the same thing. And so I just feel like it's a really good directional, maybe diagnostic to when that number climbs up on a campaign or an account to be like, we have to do something. We have to change something. That's kind of how I'm thinking about it or using it.
Interesting.
And like the inverse of that is just frequency, right?
Mhm.
It's like you want the same, like a roughly the same CPM, but lower frequency.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I think that's how the maths.
Exactly. It's just like what percentage of your impressions are new?
Right. And what do you think is driving lower cost per thousand accounts? You said the bidding strategy, is that most of it? Is it like something about an offer or the creative, like some combination of all three? I'd be curious to know.
That's a really good question. So the biggest difference we're seeing is this bidding strategy, which I don't believe we can share yet. But that's the biggest difference. There are a few others. I think creative is a very big one. But yeah, we're testing a few different, I guess bidding strategy. I always mix up bidding strategies or objectives, but like we're testing like value optimization. We're testing like purchase optimization. Like these new ones seems to be maybe reaching a new pocket of people. I think also creative is probably one of the bigger levers. I just think that's where we struggle to break out and reach new people. And I think certain other brands do a much better job of having like very diverse creative that continues to reach new people. So that's our goal for us. But I think we're at least finding some wins with these different, media buying strategies.
I've got ours pulled up. I just added that column. It's clearly the non-purchase conversion stuff that's reaching more net new people has the lowest cost, which you would expect, right? I mean, if it's going to go and reach people that you're not hitting over and over again, and then you got our purchase conversion that are way higher than like the view content or some of the other non-purchase conversion stuff that we're running.
Yeah, it'll be higher. But I think even thinking about it just amongst your purchase stuff, like A is like, how does it track over time? And is there correlated with performance? Or like between different, I don't know if you have different strategies running inside your account.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing, I think the same event that you're optimizing for, Cody, that we can't say yet, is also very, very low in order of highest cost per 1,000 accounts to lowest. So it'll be, once we can talk about that, we can maybe bring that up a little bit more.
I got to see if we can talk about that at the Meta Summit. Maybe that would be a good.
Dude, hopefully.
I doubt it, but we'll see.
It's become too big of a tease.
Yeah. This is kind of one of those, I feel like one of those bidding strategies in Meta that has had like the biggest, I mean, we're seeing really good results out of it in our account. I know, Cody, you've been super bullish on it. It seems like this is one of those things they've added in that maybe could actually have a fairly large impact on your ad account performance over a long period of time.
Yeah, I could see it. Now, I'm curious, Cody. I think David Herman, friend of the pod, brought this up in the comments about running top of funnel in order to drive down. You can drive down your blended cost per 1,000 accounts reached. There should be a acronym for this. We have too many acronyms, but this should probably have one. Because Connor just said, and we see the same thing. The most cost-effective way to do it is just to not optimize for purchase anymore. So where do you land on that? Are you running some top of funnel? And do you just feel like being able to optimize for purchases while kind of making it kind of like a sub-objective of like also trying to reach new accounts is like, that's the better mix?
Yeah, we have, I think, more to do. We've had a mixed success with different, objectives, which can share about. But I think there's a lot of value, and we can't talk too much about this test, but there's a lot of value of reaching new people in a purchase objective, like because Meta has the purchase signal on them. Not to say there's not a lot of value in going up funnel with your objective. Like we've all proven, and I know that you guys have had a lot of success with it, that can be very incremental. The exciting thing about this test is like on a 1-day click, we have the same, if not better, 1-day click ROAS on these campaigns.
Totally.
But with, 20% higher net new visit rate or something like that. So it's like, we've only ran a conversion lift study on this, not a house, but like, I would imagine it's like significantly more efficient then. So I think that's the exciting part is like, you're theoretically getting some best of both worlds. But that being said, tons of value in that. So we're running Quiz Complete as our only non-purchase objective right now.
Mm-hmm.
We ran a really successful test in Q4, like a $20 cost per incremental, and I didn't really believe it. So we tested again with the 3 cell, similar to what you guys did at Ridge, and we didn't find it to be great. It was incremental, but not as efficient. I think I don't think we had a big enough delta between like the spend levels where you guys were much more aggressive with it.
Because you did 3 cell and you scaled up the campaigns that were optimizing for Quiz Complete.
It probably wasn't a big enough difference, especially once you like regionalize the spend.
Yeah.
So I think we're just gonna go with the 2 cell and like scale into it.
If you want to hit next level growth, you need to move away from correlation-based measurement and move towards causality. There is no better way to test your channels, your levels of diminishing return, certain tactics within a channel than using a geo-based incrementality testing tool. And that's exactly what House is. That is exactly why all 3 of us use House. House is a self-serve experimentation platform that allows you to configure regional test and control experiments to measure incrementality and identify points of diminishing returns. House is really it's the most controlled, the most scientifically sound way to do any sort of marketing testing and experimentation. These things are very, very hard to set up on your own. It's rigorous. If you have one little variable messed up, all of a sudden your data is not trustworthy. That's why House is such a valuable partner. All you need to do is go into your ad accounts and add exclusion or exclusion lists, run the data or run the test. And not only do they set up the test for you, but they also help you interpret all the results. So they're handling experimentation design and experiment analysis, and also even going as far as helping you make sense of what to do based on that data. And we at Hexclad have gotten some insane insights this year from all of our House holdout tests. So our core strategy this year has been doing channel level holdouts to really see which channels are driving the best and most efficient cost per incremental order. So we've tested YouTube, Meta, Google PMax, TikTok. We're now testing AppLovin. We are getting a sense of which channels are driving the most incrementally efficient first-time orders right now. And the amount of insights that come from that information is insane. It helps us inform where we develop creative. It helps us inform where we scale up budgets in certain channels and bring certain budgets down. Plus, we are now able to use our incrementality results and actually plug it right into Prescient. So not only are we getting causal data, that is actual data that we can trust to make decisions off of, but now the media mix models and the probabilistic data from Prescient is even more accurate because they're using actual data to inform their models and the readouts that they're giving us. House is an essential addition to your measurement stack. Go to house.io/operators. That is spelled HAUS.io/operators to start your incrementality practice today.
Where are you guys at? You guys still on that view content pretty heavy?
Yeah, it all depends. Like right now we're in a sale period, so Purchase Optimize is hitting goal. So our like top of funnel, our view content optimized campaigns are like sub 10% of total budget. And then at times, like when we're in, we call them evergreen periods, when we're off promo, the top of funnel seems to become more likely to hit goal, and it can become a larger percentage of budget. So yeah, I mean, just to like connect a couple of the dots here, because it's been a theme of the podcast all year. It feels as if, from a marketing perspective, we've more or less, I'm going to make it sound bad, we've more or less had to bend over backwards in order to force Meta to reach new accounts. And that's like, yeah, that's what I was saying in January, like we're brute forcing our way to reaching new people via this view content. Meta has said for years that creative's a new targeting, and that's how you do it, which like I'm sure is true to a certain degree. And 3, what we're talking about now is it seems like there's things in the pipeline that will allow us to optimize for purchases while still trying to reach new people and kind of prioritize that objective. So yeah, Connor, to your point, it does seem like it could be something really, really powerful in the pipeline. So hopefully our jobs become a little bit clearer, a little more straightforward over the next couple months. And luckily we've got this new metric that we can pay attention to. Thanks to Cody.
Should we talk about the next tweet?
Yeah.
This is just me being a hater a little bit, this one. I'm like, pull up the document. Right below it, Connor's got a screenshot of right below it. So this was 2 days after it. I said, and this was just joking, but I was like, I swear you can make up a metric, tweet about it, and in a week you'll see DTC X threads about why it's the most important metric in e-com.
Yeah, 100%. And we're continuing the propaganda with this podcast.
Cody, what % of what percent of people responded to your cost per 1,000 accounts with love for it versus pure hate for it?
Dude, like I'm telling you, I said this was my most controversial opinion. I had 0 people disagree. And normally, like, whatever you say on Twitter, even if it's like the most like unarguable thing, like people will come out of the woodwork and be like, no, you're an idiot, you're wrong. Nobody disagreed with me. So I got to get a little spicier. But no, it's just funny. Definitely saw some people start tweeting about it and threat. And like, this is not a metric I made up. It's a metric in Meta.
Right.
But I do think it's an important one to look at. But I just find the human behavior funny about how people latch onto it and start tweeting about it.
Do you think it's related to rolling reach? Because let me explain it, and you can tell me if I'm wrong here. Because you're looking at cost per 1,000 account reach at the campaign level relative to other campaigns. So you're not necessarily looking at like year to date unique accounts reached and like how incremental was this new campaign. You're really just looking at like in a month to date or last week, like what campaigns were driving the lowest cost per 1K accounts. Whereas rolling reach is like looking at it over a much longer time and trying to ensure over the last year or 2 years that you are continuing to reach new people. So do you think those are related, or do you think it's really just about the cost in the shorter term and the amount of unique people you served impressions to?
Oh, I'm sure they're correlated. I think the one difference is there's no cost component to rolling reach.
Totally.
You know, so like theoretically, you could be reaching the same percent of new people, but if your overall CPMs are going up, because frequency is one component, CPM is one component of this. But definitely, I'm sure it's correlated. The way I'm thinking about using this is just a diagnostic. All right, our performance is down, ROAS is down. Let's look at this. Like, let's have this be one of the first things we need to do. And then like, do we need to shock the system a little bit? Do we need to put some more money into mid-funnel quiz complete? Do we need to take some larger creative swings?
Totally.
That's how I'm thinking about it. And then I think the other thing is like just having a dashboard that look at weekly, bi-weekly, whatever it is, CPMs, just trend line over time compared to cost per 1,000 accounts reached, just to make sure like that delta is not shrinking, if that makes sense. So you're constantly reaching new people.
No, that makes sense. And we've said that a lot. Like rolling reach does kind of feel like a tactic to convince advertisers to spend money upper funnel on like reach optimize, review optimize, or whatever, which like some people are super skeptical of. And like our account is one where like we've basically reached every man in America only optimizing for purchase objectives. But what I've said for a long time and what you just mentioned is like, that's not necessarily the most cost-effective way to reach all the men in America. That like finding a balance, I think, is really, really valuable. I think that's how those two end up being related, and agreed that the cost component makes it a little bit more actionable than like just looking at how many unique people have we reached over the last 18 months and let's make sure we're increasing that 10% over the next 6 months. Is like, you should be thinking about cost in that strategy.
They're probably all really more complicated than necessary ways of looking at frequency.
Yeah, 1000%. Well, because I was going to say that to you, I haven't like audited a Meta ad account in a while, but like it feels like typically an easy win. You go in there and you're like, hey, this is a frequency of 11. Like, let's just spend less here and let's add exclusions. And like those things are what would drive down cost per 1,000 accounts reached.
Yeah, exactly. We've struggled so hard with exclusions. Just whatever we have tried to date has not made a difference. If anything, a lot of things that you would think made it worse. We're trying one thing. Some dude reached out on Twitter. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's try it. I think it's called like Waste Not. Essentially, like it's almost like a CDP where they like consolidate different like data lists, because like apparently from Klaviyo there's like a lot of leakage and like Meta can't pass it all back, and then obviously Pixel there's a lot. So I'll keep you guys posted if there's anything, but like we've just struggled so hard with exclusions, and just like this is probably I'm gonna tweet this later because this is actually my most controversial thing is like, right. I just think exclusions are broken, and like I see people have so much confidence in them and they talk about like best practices, and I just don't think it matters that much.
I agree that exclusions don't work the way they're supposed to. Probably I wouldn't say completely broken. Go ahead, Connor.
I was gonna say probably especially so for you, Cody, in your business, where like, I don't know what your reorder rate is in 12 months, but I bet people are ordering 3, 4, maybe 5 times in 12 months. I can imagine that'd be a lot harder. Whereas us, like we're still, we never see Facebook drop below like low 90% on first time orders. Now, net new visit rate will drop and frequency will go up, but it's still pretty much only first time orders. And like our reorder rate's like, it's not bad. It's not like anything like you guys though. So I think it probably depends on the business model a ton.
I agree with that. I definitely agree. I think there's more signal to go after for us. Same with like when we talk about AppLovin and like why maybe it was more incremental on new customers for other brands. So I think there's more signal, but I think regardless, there's still like a lot of leakage. Just with like,
are you guys going to set any, like I'm thinking about this cost per 1,000 accounts reached now, and I could see us almost setting some targets based on when we're in a sale versus when we're in our evergreen period, and like really trying to optimize towards that lower cost per 1,000 accounts reached when we're in an evergreen period, and then maybe a little bit higher when we're in a sale for a couple of weeks and we want to like pump frequency. Are you just kind of like keeping an eye on it for now, Cody? Or are you actually like working with the team to be like, all right, now that I have a lay of the land on this metric, like here's what we want during X period, here's what we want during Y period? Or are you just kind of keeping a pulse check on it for the time being?
Good question. More of a pulse check, more of like a diagnostic, which is like, hey, if performance is good, you don't look at it. It's like click-through rate or something. But when performance takes a hit, it's like, to me, probably one of the first things we should be looking at, just to tell us like, hey, we need to do a better job of reaching people. And then it's all right, how do we do it? Do we test different optimization settings? Do we test, different campaign types? Do we break out different creative styles? There's definitely multiple ways to skin the cat, as we've discussed. But I think that more than like looking at it daily and be like, I don't know. That's my thought. I don't think it's something you optimize towards necessarily.
Yeah, I asked because we're running more view content than we ever have. We really like the results we saw in our house test, and last 2 weeks we put like 7.5% of our budget into it. That was during a sale period. We're about to scale it up to like close to 15%. So I'm going to keep a pulse on that metric and see how us putting, basically doubling the amount of spend we have in our view content. We'll see what that does to the entire accounts.
Oh, keep us posted.
Yeah, because
that'll be
the
interesting
lowest
to see. How other campaigns, if you're reaching more new people, if there's more signal.
Yeah, I'll let you guys know.
For you guys, it makes so much sense. I mean, obviously you're at such a large scale, and also just with your AOV, like it just makes so much sense that a mid funnel would work very well for you. Yeah.
Well, we're excited to move further up funnel. We've really only tested into view content, and I think there's a lot more objectives that make a lot of sense for us. So we're going to do a mix of house tests and Meta's user level testing, so we can keep finding wins there and keep getting more and more and more of our budget into these upper funnel campaigns.
Sweet. All right, good little meta deep dive there.
You've heard us talk about Prescient AI before. We work with them at Jones Road, but you still might be wondering, what is it? What is this MMM thing? At its core, Prescient really helps brands get more out of every marketing dollar that they're spending by showing them what's working, what's not, and where to spend their money next. The Prescient team knows modern marketing is a sum of many things: your media spend, seasonality, other marketing campaigns, consumer sentiment, and so much more. That's why they don't rely on pixels, biased platform measurement, or old research models to help you make the most confident decisions. They truly built their MMM from the ground up based on models that adapt to your data and evolve over time, not the other way around. If you want to measure the halo effect that your campaigns are having on all of your channels, I'm talking about e-commerce, Amazon, and even retail, then Prescient can help you out. You can test new channels, predict future performance of those channels, know how much you should be spending on each of them, and continuously optimize how you spend your budget to make it as efficient as possible, which, listen, we all need right now. You can do this all without sacrificing your upper funnel budget or bottom line KPIs. Prescient has proven to us how truly incremental and efficient some of our upper funnel channels like TVR that was very hard to measure prior to it. So if you've been wanting to try Prescient, they just upgraded their model, and their vision across measurement and retail is truly next level. They take marketing decision making where it's never been able to go to before. If you want to learn more and gain insights into how you can optimize your entire media mix in as little as 48 hours, then go to prescientai.com/operators and book a demo today.
Connor, you sent a really cool, we'll pivot here. We're going to talk about AI and Shopify. Connor, you sent a really cool example. We mentioned this on last week's episode. Shopify Summer Editions came out mid-May. One of their big focuses, which we didn't really talk about, was improvements to Sidekick, which is their like AI-enabled assistant in the Shopify store. You've been playing around with it. What's your take?
Yeah, we talked about this like months ago too, about how like the next evolution of these data platforms are just being able to prompt it and, the technology going and pulling the information that you want and just bringing it right to you. I'm stoked on this because there's really no excuse not to be super, super data driven anymore. You could maybe make the excuse before these LLMs on top of these data analytics platforms that you still have to know how to use the platform, right? These platforms take time to get, like Google Analytics. You got to know where to go for the information, or Northbeam, or really any analytics platform you're using. You don't really need to. I think a year from now or 2 years from now, you really won't need to know how to navigate the platforms, because you can go into these LLMs, tell it what you want, and it's going to bring all the data to you. So now you just need to know. Obviously, it's all right, now data is even more accessible. So the importance of knowing what's important is more important. But man, I was playing around with this, and anything I wanted that Shopify has, I just prompted it, and in a minute I had it. And it shows you the workflow, which is really fun too. So you can kind of learn as well while it's pulling the information, where these things live. So yeah, it was really fun to see in Shopify's new mobile app upgrade. I'm seeing other analytics using it, like Edge Mesh. I'm sure more and more and more of these platforms are going to keep peppering it in, because it just makes the tool so much more accessible.
And what was, you sent us a cool example. Can you just talk through what that was so people get an idea of how you're using it exactly?
Yeah, I was just seeing what it could pull. So I think the example I was looking at was was I looking at add to cart rate? Yeah, I was looking at hey, tell me what the add to cart rate was on Monday of our Memorial Day sale. How did that compare to last year? And then so I was all right, the add to cart rate was basically the same. And then the next question I asked it was, can you look at add to cart rate by source and tell me which ones are marginally lower than the average? And then it sent us that. So it's all right, we know add to cart rate, we know the average add to cart rate. Are there any traffic sources that are maybe having a lower add to cart rate than average, which means the intent's probably a little lower, or it's more upper funnel? I wasn't really there wasn't an actual business case baked in there that I was just trying to see what it could do. But you can start to get a sense of the types of insights. All right, paid TikTok has a 25% lower add to cart rate than average. There's some clear action items there to either scale it down, or maybe go see if that's more upper funnel than other channels. If it's not, then maybe you do turn it off or scale it down. It's just, the data is right at our fingertips, and it's pretty fun to be able to go query these really deep dives and see how quickly it can give you that information.
Yeah, I was really surprised by the the comparison piece that you mentioned. I was okay, I would have been so unimpressed if it was hey, what was our add to cart rate yesterday? I was okay, yeah, I don't know. That's fine. But what you were asking for was multi-step. I think the example you sent us was it was sales on a certain, it was sales on some sort of kitchen set.
I was looking up the sales on our kitchen utensil set, and then how that compared to the previous weekend. Yeah, I will say I did try to, I prompted it to do some forecasting for us as well. Middle of the day on Monday, I said, hey, what do you think we'll do in revenue today? And it was all right, let me go look at historicals, yada, yada, yada. And it missed by $600,000 in revenue. So it's not perfect, but it's kind of cool to all right, make it go backwards in time and just pull information, but then also see, try to make it predict for you and see how well it does with that. Did not do well on the revenue prediction, but yeah, I'll be playing around with it. And I think it's just kind of a fun thing. As these questions you have, these data-driven questions you have come up, go into Shopify and see if you can get the answer before you go and do all your manual data pulling and jockeying of these platforms.
Totally. I remember we were just trying to get some frequently bought together stuff a few months back, and director of retention requested it from our data person. Obviously, he's got a backlog of stuff. So I used for what I saw, but saw a GPT for how Shopify has their version of SQL. I think it's ShopQL. And I know a little bit SQL, but so I prompted it and told it what I wanted, and it wrote me a query based on that to get it. But now you can just go straight into Shopify and be hey, tell me the most frequently bought together things with this. And then I played around with this. You can also be okay, what bundles would you create based on this? And then I think where it will go not that far off in the future is you can then just be okay, create them. Because you can do that. I don't know if you guys have seen, but you can say, hey, create a product and it'll create it. I don't know if it does anything with the assets, but it'll put in copy. I even had it be like, hey, copy, use this other product as the base and copy over all the same meta fields. And it did that, which is pretty wild. So I don't feel like we're that far away from that. It's like having the data analysis in the same place where then you can have some of the generation, I think will be very cool.
100%. What I'm super curious to see, and this is like everything that we've been describing is super exciting. And as far as the forecasting goes, like it's one of those things that probably just gets better over time. Will it get to the point that like your inventory planner can just be like prompts in the Sidekick? I have no idea. Like that seems like really far off. I'd like to think for the sake of some amount of human work, that like there will be enough nuance that some human will have to be in the loop, but we'll see. On the generation point, I'll be super curious to see how Shopify connects to other places. Because I also think for enterprise solutions, for a smaller business, I could see like all the data you'd ever need is living within Shopify already. For our business, I feel like we that process is connecting a couple different things between like, I'd love to connect to our master SKU table and where we place our images and things like that. And like, that's not crazy to think that it's like Google Drive integrations where you could basically prompt in, hey, we have all this information in all these different places. Now you can like build out the product page in full, all the correct meta fields updated and not just duplicating them over from someplace else. And, that feels like when we think about enterprise agent solutions, there will have to be more points of connection, and that's what Motion talks about all the time from a ad creative perspective. Is like they want to be the hub of that. So we'll see where Shopify goes with it, but extremely cool progress being made over the last couple of weeks.
I'm with you. Yeah. I think access to the data, and I'm sure they'll do it, or if not, as we talked about last one where you were saying like this is where the data warehouse and just like having the infrastructure is huge. Have you guys seen or played with like the what's the theme called? Is it Horizon? Like their new theme that has some like Gen AI capabilities or some coding stuff in it?
No, I haven't played with it. We had it on the agenda last week. We didn't talk about it because it seems extremely cool.
I want to play around with it. I got to like make sure I don't mess anything up. Might have to do it in like a dev store or something. But yeah, it seems very cool, and I'm so into that of being able to just, be like, all right, here's an idea for this block I have and just have it generate it for a test.
Right. Yeah. For those listening, it's like, and there's a really cool demo. Harley tweeted it last week. But it's like built for AI generation. So you could just describe, you might have some sort of like collection section that you could just describe, hey, when you hover over the image, I want to flip to some lifestyle image. And that just becomes code. It's like natural language for theme editing. And the theme seems purpose built to support that. So extremely cool if you're starting a Shopify store today.
Yeah, you're going to see those like one-person businesses. You're about to see that at like one-person $50 million business, not too far off in the future.
DTC 4.0.
Yeah.
No Sidekick on desktop.
No, there is. It's hidden. Took me a minute. It's top right, next to your like notifications.
Oh yeah, there it is. Yep.
I know. I was surprised that it was marked. It was hidden.
Yep. Okay. Sweet.
Awesome. So yeah, Sidekick, super cool. We've got this question here, and we've already beaten around the bush a little bit. But is there anything else you guys would want to see from Shopify on the AI front?
I think, like just what Cody said, like prompting it to actually publish and do things more. I think the data polling's awesome. But the more that this can become like an ecom manager is going to be so cool. And I think we all have things in Shopify we do that are pretty like repeat things. Like we always run some of the same like $1,400 and $1,000 bundles for every single sale period. Like I should just be able to prompt Shopify to like give it the assets, and it should be able to duplicate it, set the inventory, all the things without a person touching it, except for the person prompting it. And it goes back to like the same conversation we've had about designers and video editors. Like these AI tools should just make them more dangerous. Like this should just make an ecom manager even better at their job.
Totally.
So do you think it would be better to, I think you said like be the ecom manager, or do you think it would be better to like allow the ecom manager to be the dev?
Like can the ecom manager now do a lot more dev work?
Yeah, like that's what I want. I want to be like, hey, we want to spin up this new section or this new feature or this new test. And I want my ecom manager or director or whatever it is to be able to go in and be like, hey, make me this section and then like push that into this theme and set up this test.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially if it's like, we're doing a ton of personalization landing page builds right now that are all based on a core listicle that we've tested into and have put a lot of money behind. That is the perfect example where like an e-com manager should be able to go use an AI tool to build the carnivore version or the 50 plus version or whatever version. And then I want the dev to be working on like, all right, what's the next like 0 to 3 page we're building? And they should still be using AI tools, but they're probably going to have to get in there themselves and like do some coding. I think that's the delineation between our e-com managers, like iterating on pages. Engineering is building net new pages. And then once we test into it and we like it, we iterate on it. That's the e-com manager's role as part of that like second half of it.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. I slacked Drew from IntelliGems like 3 weeks ago. I was playing with Shop Dev. I don't know if you guys have seen that. That's kind of like a little like, code thing for Shopify. And I was telling Drew that like they should build something like that into IntelliGems, like because I don't think the dev or the design has to be as perfect if it's just a test. But yeah, like you should be able to go into IntelliGems and be like, hey, I want to set up a test where I want to, add review stars or something like that. Like if it's like a quick test, that should be like a super easy Gen AI thing. And I actually slacked him last night. I was just like, hey, the more I think about it, the more I think you guys should really do this. So yeah, and then you can take that, right? Because I don't know, maybe the code's not going to be great or the design's not going to be great. And then if you get a winner, it's like minimum viable product, then you can have your dev team build it out like properly.
And honestly, I think both examples are equally valid, right? Like all we're talking about is like people becoming higher leverage because ecom ops can be delegated to an agent and development can be delegated to an agent. And if that goes to the same person and you just have this incredibly empowered ecom marketer or whatever, that's awesome. It go to different parts of the org. The idea is like the human labor that is required to get some of these things done it seems like there's a clear path to it being automated. And that's what it reminds me of is I was watching a bunch of videos over the weekend on vibe marketing, which I think is a hilarious term. And I don't even really know what it is, but this video is like, this guy's basically seemed to be running his whole business from like Claude chat. And he was doing keyword research. He was like, I want to start a product. Find me all the long tail keywords with this volume that like aren't that competitive. Claude does that. And he'd connected it to like, Hrefs and all this other stuff via like N8N. It was really quite cool. But like the idea that this is what you were talking about, Cody, the one person $40 million business, just like hanging out on his keyboard, just vibing, doing keyword research, writing blogs. The guy didn't have a way to publish it to WordPress or Shopify, but like you imagine that's like in the pipeline at some point. And it's just like one person who's just vibe marketing their way to like all the e-com updates that you need.
It's awesome.
It sounds nice.
I got to check out some of the stuff I've seen. I want to check some of it out and see if there's anything usable.
Yeah. It's been a year since we migrated to Rich Panel, and I had no idea how impactful the right customer service tool could be. Here's what our customer service team has achieved since making the move. 1, our order volume continues to rise, but our support tickets have not. Our self-service portal helps 47% of website visitors help themselves immediately without having to contact their agents. 2, their AI-powered social media moderator is awesome. We continue to spend a ton on Meta as a part of our marketing mix, and it flags and replies to thousands of comments automatically to help us make the most of our ad spend. Like many of you, I've been cautiously skeptical about certain automation and AI use cases, but our support quality hasn't dipped at all. It's actually gone up. We're at an all-time high of 96% customer satisfaction score. All this, and it's still 50% cheaper than other platforms. No limits on AI usage or tickets, and fair, predictable pricing each month. With market and tariff uncertainty, consumer confidence is in the gutter. You cannot afford bad customer experience or overpaying for older software tools. And migration is super simple. They handle your data import, agent training, and automation setup. You only need 2 or 3 calls, and you're live in 14 days. They guarantee a 30% ticket reduction in the first 60 days or your money back, so it's a no-brainer. If you want happier customers and a happier finance team, head over to richpanel.com/demo to book a demo today. All right, cool. Talked about Shopify AI. Sounds like we'll all be circling back here over the next couple of weeks. We've all got a lot of cool stuff going on, and things are changing quickly. Next in the docket, we've got some operator hotline questions. So for those listening, we've got a link in the show notes. If you have any questions, submit them. I think it's included in the newsletter, which everybody should be subscribed to. So if you have questions, send them through. Makes for great content on the pod and hopefully helpful to everybody. consuming it. So one, this is from a low 8-figure supplement brand. They asked, how would you run incrementality tests for a low 8-figure and plus 1 million ad spend brand? Currently 80 to 90% Meta and the rest on Google search. Thanks, guys. I love the pod. That's from Richard. Who wants to take this one?
I think that Meta's user level incrementality testing is available for, I believe, every ad account. I don't think there's any definitely for this one, I think, if they're spending that much, but I'm pretty sure any ad account out there can use that functionality. So I would start there. Run a in Meta incrementality test, which is a user level test, and you should get a pretty good read that's a great jumping off point.
I think that's a good answer. I was going to take a different route. I was going to say for low 8 figures, you probably don't need to be measuring incrementality. Like, you'd like to think it's working or not. You're also a single channel, basically 80 to 90% on Meta and like Google search. I imagine that's like probably mostly brand and some non-branded. It's like Meta's either working or it's not. Increase spend. If your revenue goes up, you're driving incremental results. That's how we ran the business for a really long time.
Keep it simple, right?
Yeah. In-platform conversion lift for Meta is free. I think we did determine that it is available to everyone. That's probably a little bit better of an answer.
But you're just saying just period over period. Like, if you're at this scale and you're like, screw it, I'm gonna scale up by, I'm spending 10 grand a day, I'm gonna go to 15 grand a day. Like, you should be able to, assuming there's not like any insane seasonality happening during that period of time, like you should be able to see that, and like give that 30 days and like you should be able to see a period over period lift. If you scale up by 50% and your revenue only goes up 20%, all right, it's probably not, it's incremental clearly, but it's not probably at the profitability clip that you want it to be at.
Right. But that also, then you could do the calculation. What was the delta in revenue? What was the delta in spend? You get some sort of like, you call that whatever.
IROAS,
maybe call it IROAS. That's how I would start for sure. Cody, would you have any other answers?
For sure. I think both of your answers are good. I think low 8 figures, essentially, right, demand generation on one platform. Like, your business is your incrementality test. It's like very rare that you're not, if 90% of your spend is Meta and you're profitable and your business grows as you scale spend, like that is your incrementality test. Like, you don't have enough variables where it makes sense. If you really want to, I would probably just scale spend and see. If you're in multiple regions, scale spend in a region. We actually didn't run a conversion optimized incrementality test on Meta until probably, it was either it might've been Q1 this year. And like we've been on house for a while because I just knew it was so incremental. Like, maybe I should have done it earlier, but like, we launch a new region, Meta is the only thing we go with. We double spend in that region, business goes up. Like, maybe I didn't know the exact IROAS, but I knew Meta was very incremental for us. So I think where incrementality is much more necessary is when you have multiple channels, when you're trying to find the right spend level, when you're trying to find how much to allocate between the channels, and when you have channels that attribution is not telling you something. But I think in this scenario, I wouldn't. If you really need to, go with the conversion lift. But
yeah, that's funny. I'll add for reference. We ran our first conversion lift on Meta 2023 when we were putting the Disruptors Meta program. And I remember talking to the reps and they're like, you've never done a conversion lift study? We did like $150 million that year or something. You've never done a conversion lift study? And that was my answer. I'm like, look, it's either working or it's not. Like, and I think that's probably the more important takeaway is you should be thinking from like an incrementality perspective. And there are many ways that you can try to measure it. Just looking period over period. Conversion lift in Meta is a good one. Just think about your entire business. We look at, we track this in like our main reporting dashboard, but even just like year over year. So month to date, year over year, what's revenue up, what's spend up, and what is our like delta return on that? I wouldn't call that an incremental ROAS, but it is like, what are the changes in these two metrics and what is the relationship between them? You can get you get really far, like just directionally trying to get that right.
Totally agreed.
And you could do it in reverse too, if you're a little more risk averse. If you're like, all right, I want to actually, instead of scaling up X%, I'm actually going to scale down X% and then just do the same thing in reverse. If you're like, I have zero risk right now for spending an additional $5,000 per day at at 5K of additional revenue or less or whatever it is. Like, I mean, we do this all the time too on a micro level. Like we're not super bullish on the incrementality of the level of spend we were putting into Amazon. We scaled back by like 50% last year. And over the next 30 days, our Amazon revenue dropped like 5% or something like that. So like we do this as well. Not everything has to be like hold out, exposed. Like it's ideal, but it's, I don't know. That takes a long time to run. Like the period over period can be a lot quicker, especially if you don't have a super long consideration period. Like you'll get that insight really quickly.
Cool. So I like that point too. That's like a little bit more channel specific and scaling down. Amazon's a great one. We've done that before where it's like these high intent channels, you can like really easily spend money that's not incremental because they can just attribute like existing intent and conversions that would have already happened to the ads. So Amazon's one. I'd say branded search too, where it was like, yeah, we just took that. At one point in time, it was like 5% of our total budget, and we took it to like, sub 1%. And it did not seem to make an impact on total revenue. So we felt good about it. And I think if I'm a low 8-figure brand, I want to be thinking more like that than some sort of perfect scientific method.
Yeah. And like you can still be data driven. Like that is still a very data driven approach, even if it's not like a perfectly structured test following like exactly how you need to set up a test for it to be, considered scientific or whatever. Like just have a data point that you're referencing as you make these decisions, and you're probably going to make the right call 70-80% of the time, I would hope.
Yeah, that's a funny distinction. Like you can be data driven without being scientifically sound.
Right. Right.
I like it. This next one's pretty long. This is from a leading West Coast hospital system.
Interesting. Okay.
Got some diverse listeners for sure. Okay, so I would love to hear your POV on the meta. What are the key platforms, techniques, workflows for marketing measurement reports with audiences that are non-technical or external to the marketing team? I've got a bit more to read here, but how are you as a marketer, Connor, or Cody, your CEO? So I guess you get this from your team. But like when I've got to talk to my team, what's the best way to format that? They say, if your marketing team delivers a quarterly measurement report to the C-suite, who expects something resembling a slide deck with KPIs and data viz that reflects the whole of your marketing activities mixed with manually written bullet points offering insights, context, takeaways? He says slides seem too cumbersome at times when like a lot of that data just lives in a dashboard. But if you go pure dashboard, you don't get any of like the anecdotal or written context. So how are you guys putting together that reporting? And have you found a nice balance of how to deliver it to non-marketing, let's just call it like C-suite people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's hard, first of all. Like you're never going to strike that balance of like digestibility and too detail oriented. We started doing these like monthly and quarterly reports this year. That's the goal, is like we start with an executive summary. Like how's the business performing with our KPIs that are like representative of the entire business, rev, spend, MER, and then it goes down to traffic. And then you get into the channel by channel report, which we've basically just spent some time talking about. A, what are the key metrics for each channel that we should care about? And then B, like what are the qualitative things that we should pull out of that? And that's what we do for now. It just goes into a single deck. And then every month, every quarter, we create a new title slide, and then everyone kind of goes through the same format, and we'll adjust it over time as we like go through it. It's certainly not optimized, but it's something's better than nothing here.
Totally.
Just to get a pulse check and like go. It's the exercise of doing it that's actually most of the value. So that's our approach. It's not perfect, but it definitely gets the job done, and it gives a pretty high level approach on, or I shouldn't say too high. I mean, it's high to medium insight on our channel performance. I will say that I think the best brand that does this is Levels. They go super in the weeds with their investor updates on every single channel. So if you're looking for some inspo or something to work towards, I would go to Levels, and I actually think they're all public.
They are public. So, yeah, but what's it? Do you remember the website?
What is the website?
Levels.
Yeah, just levels. Levels.com. And I think that in the footer is where they have their
investor updates.
Yeah. And they're awesome. Like super deep dive on exactly what I just said, like total business performance. And then they go really deep on every single channel. And then they also, the third part is, and here's what we're doing in the next month or the next quarter. Right. So it's like high level, channel specific, and here's what we're doing because of that.
Yours, Connor, would you say is it mostly data or mostly context? Like, what is that balance?
I'd say it's mostly data. Like every channel slide it starts with tables of data. There's a lot of linking to creative. A lot of linking to like, hey, here's our affiliate performance, and here's the pieces of content that drove the most traffic and the most revenue. So I'd say yes, 75% data.
Yeah. Ours is probably the same bucket. Like our workflow, and I honestly love it. And we'll have to figure out how this will change over time, because like a lot of our centralized reporting right now lives in Google Sheets. So we have a Google slide deck that's basically a template referencing all the tables of that sheet that we find valuable. So we can just duplicate that over and then refresh it with the most recent data that we want to look at. And then we're just punching in the context or like additional points or next steps or whatever. So it is probably like 60-70% data, and we're reporting on the exact same metrics. They're like, those tables are literally living in every slide deck. We actually do this weekly also, but I think it'd be the exact same workflow if we were to only do it monthly or quarterly. And that's a great flow, and it's like so standardized. As we move to the data warehouse, which will improve, like things will get slightly more accurate. They'll get more holistic across more channels. We'll have accurate COGS data. That's some of the stuff we'll benefit from with the warehouse. But you won't have that like really seamless refresh of like Google Sheets tables. So we'll probably move to screenshots for Solomon. Like we would just do that. Because I'd even say right now, our like paid social director will do a couple slides, and those are just Northbeam screenshots and things like that. And it's like, I think that's totally fine. We're looking at it directionally and then that context. And we're typically talking through it as well. I also think it's really hard to put together a document that you don't expect to like be presented to some degree. Like if you want it to contain every single bit of information you want, that's tricky. So whether it's a synchronous meeting or some sort of Loom or something, I think like those are the additional layers. Data, written context, some sort of brief presentation on it would be is our workflow.
That's what we're still trying to figure out, is like that final piece. Like, what's the best format to review this? Because that's a lot of information. There's a lot of color required to paint that picture. So that's like, is this like a 60-minute or 90-minute meeting that we have like in the first week of every new month or quarter, reviewing the last month or quarter? Like, that's like kind of the final piece we need to like really button up, and then probably come back and audit the actual information we're pulling.
Totally. Cody, anything you want to add?
Yeah, everyone's going to be a little different. We've done a bunch of different things. I think because I don't have like a CMO marketing leader, like I do the just top line, just look at it myself and then like share it in our marketing meeting weekly. It was just blended metrics, pacing, revenue, contribution margin, spend, AMER, stuff like that. We used to have like the channel level go over that weekly. We really switched that to like one-on-ones and async. So I have everybody. So like depending on who it is, either in a meeting or a lot of it is now even like I've just moved a lot of things to async, and we only meet if we need to meet. But like director of retention will share her KPIs for the week, right? Like just repeat revenue, email and SMS revenue, list growth, right? And my expectations for everybody, so paid social will share theirs, acquisition and paid social metrics. Influencer will share theirs. My expectations for anybody is these are the numbers. We were this much above or below forecast, and why. So here's the numbers. Here's my analysis. Here's what I'm doing about it. And I think anybody, director, even manager level above, like that's the expectations. Same thing, meet with, if I meet with VP retail, she's sharing the same thing on retail. She's sharing, here's how we're pacing compared to our forecast. Here's why we're below. Here's what we're doing about it. And then same thing, like demand plan gets updated weekly. So that actually is in a deck. It used to be, I think, especially because because I am CEO, we have like a bunch of different teams. Everybody kind of formats things differently. Like the marketing team will do it. We have a data warehouse, but we do it all in a sheet, but it gets auto-populated from our data warehouse. But I just prefer it in a sheet, but we have it in Power BI as well. We have the same data in Power BI. Yeah, I just like to keep it easy. So a lot of it is just like a document, like a one-on-one document. It just gets screenshotted in there. Like our VP retail will like print out like the Power BI thing and like bring it to our meeting. So it's all different. Our demand planner used to do it in email, and it just became too cumbersome. So she puts it in a deck. And then she'll like take a few slides out of that deck and she'll send it to every director in our company just so everybody can see like how we're doing compared to our demand plan in terms of like unit sales. So yeah, there's a little bit that's all over the place. I think you've got to find what's best for you and your team. And then the one thing we do for paid social, we'll do like a monthly paid social review. We used to do like a separate performance review and a creative review, and we kind of do it all together. We'll first start, and whoever's leading that channel will be like, here's meta spend. We'll look at ROAS. Maybe we'll throw in that cost per 1,000 accounts reached now, and then we'll look at every creative concept we launched.
Totally.
So that's probably like the only like big monthly one.
I really like that very simple high level format, Cody, because you could take that framework and then apply that to like any level of detail. But I think what you said was, here are my KPIs, like the actuals, and then everyone's going to have different control metrics or forecasts to compare them against. Here's my analysis on why the KPIs are what they are, and here's what I'm doing about it. Like, I love that. Super simple, and then you can take that in any number of ways.
Dude, I'm anal about that, and that's a culture shift over the last year that we've really implemented and changed. And our VP of retail is doing in retail right now is just accountability. Like, I don't love week over week metrics for that. I just think they strip accountability. It's like, oh, like for example, if somebody's going to report to you on week over week right now, like they're going to be like, oh, well, we're down 60%, but the sale's over, And it's like, all right, how, like we forecasted that in, how are you against your forecast?
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that is very important. And then what are you doing about it if you're below? Like, it's fine to miss. This is what I've told people before, because I've had people who didn't do a great job of this and they're no longer here, but it doesn't look poorly upon you if you miss your numbers. It looks poorly upon you if you're not willing to own them and take accountability for them and then share what your plan is to improve them. But if you try to sweep it under the rug, like that's a big no-no.
100%. All right, Solomon, hope that's helpful. If you're listening to this podcast, I know that you're working hard to drive revenue with upsells and across your e-com site generally. But if you're not monetizing your post-purchase experience, you're leaving easy profit on the table. Most brands and everyone listening are optimizing the transaction journey, but stopping at the thank you page. And that is a big mistake. Aftersell is changing that. We've been using their Rock Thanks feature at Ridge, and it's a no-brainer for us. Here's how it works. You show premium, non-competing offers from brands like Disney Plus and HelloFresh on your order confirmation page. AI-driven personalization picks the best offer from hundreds of reputable advertisers, and brands like True Classic, BlendJet, and Jones Road Beauty are already using it, seeing 30 to 70 cents lift per order. No disruption, no fees, just extra cash in the bank. And the numbers speak for themselves. After-sale customers generate $20,000 to $30,000 in pure profit per 100,000 orders. There's a 16% average engagement rate, which is way better than traditional ads, and it's a new revenue stream without disrupting the checkout. It's an easy win, and it's completely free to try. Plus, Aftersell is hooking up marketing operators listeners because you can sign up today and you get their entire upselling suite for a year, which we also use very heavily. So visit aftersell.com/operators to try Rock Thanks and see the money rolling in. Stop leaving money on the table. Turn your thank you page into more revenue with Aftersell. All right, cool. Let's talk. This will end up segueing into the test of the week here. Shane Rostad, another friend of the pod, one of the few multi-appearance guests. He tweeted, this was a couple days ago, but he goes, say you ran a test where revenue per visitor is flat, conversion rate up 5%, AOV down 5%. Are you taking more conversions in lower AOV or less conversions in high AOV?
Can you say it again one more time?
All right, you run a test, revenue per visitor is flat. Conversion rate is up 5%. AOV is down 5%. He uses 5%, which like is maybe a little tricky. Like I think you could say 20%, and this question's maybe a little bit more. You might have more of a response to
I understand.
it.
Okay, so same profit, same revenue. You're just changing how you get there.
Are you getting fewer customers at a higher AOV or more customers at a lower AOV? Which would you choose?
I would choose the less customers, higher AOV, but that's purely based on our business. It's pretty clear when you look at our lifetime value data that when we capture more value on that first order, it also turns into more value over any time horizon you look at. So I'm taking the higher order value person, but I think you ask 10 different businesses, you should get 10 different responses because some people, it might not make sense to do it that way. Like maybe a consumable like Cody is going to say, I want to like optimize for first time order velocity and first time order customers?
Such a good question.
My only concern with that one would be, what is driving the higher LTV? Is it that what's the right way to phrase this? Is it because they spent more on their first order, or is it because they're just willing to spend more over time? So that if you are you not acquiring that person at the lower AOV, and then are they deciding not to spend more over time? I'd think you'd still have a subset of customers, even at the lower AOV, that just spend more over time because they got more money or want more of your stuff or bought into the brand.
We've found that the biggest predictor of LTV is first order AOV. My theory is if somebody has the money to spend, they have the money to spend on the first purchase as well.
Yeah, so but I think this one's tricky though, because I mean, we're talking about like everybody converting at the same value, right? So it's like, that doesn't really happen, at least for any of our brands. Anybody has the ability to purchase more products. But if you could only, if you say, like, let's say we sold creatine gummies or whatever, and if it's $50 a month, you might find that people are subscribed for a longer period of time because they're like less price sensitive. They spent more on the first order. Is that person not converting at $30 on the first month and not staying longer? I think that the behavior is still the same despite what that initial order value is.
I think it depends on your business model a little bit. For us, I'm going to most likely, without knowing more context, I'm going to pick the higher AOV because you're making more profit. You do have some, while you do have fulfillment variable costs, there are even some fixed costs amongst your variable costs. Like you're probably paying the same shipping regardless. And so let's say you're paying $8 shipping. $8 is a lower percentage of $90 than it is $95. So your landed gross margin is probably slightly better, even on the same revenue per user.
And you think that'd be the same if it was like a 20% in either direction? You'd take 20% fewer customers at the higher AOV.
That's steep. I think it would depend what it is. And like, is that something that you think is sustainable and like that you'll see, those same results outside of that 2-week period? No, because that would be wild. I'm trying to think what test you could run that you would get that result. I guess maybe like a price, like a 20% higher price.
Yeah. No, and I love this test of the week. We've been thinking about this a lot at Ridge. And I've mentioned it on previous podcasts before. Like we reduced our prices in international markets because we saw a disproportionate increase in conversion rate. So we were not like net the same. If we were net the same, we'd probably keep the higher AOV. Let me make a couple points here. Mm-hmm. We'd probably keep the higher AOV because, and Meetab has a great thread on this that maybe we can include in the show notes, but like at the higher AOV, not only will you have maybe higher gross margins considering some of the other variable costs like Cody mentioned, but you also, it reduces inventory risk, right? If you're selling it at a higher value, like you can actually pay back your suppliers quicker. So I think that's helpful. Like the inventory that you have to keep on hand just costs less relative to the retail value. So that might simplify things a little bit. What we've been, I wouldn't say struggling with, but just experimenting with a lot is like, okay, if you reduce prices 20% and conversion rate goes up 40%, so now net you're increasing more profit, you're acquiring more customers, but you're taking on more inventory risk essentially because you have lower margins on all your products. Like when do you make that trade-off? So like, again, the AOV plays such a role in your ability to acquire customers at scale that it's like, I think that trade-off becomes a little bit more interesting and leads me to my test of the week. We launched a product in April, maybe early May. It's a $150 wallet. And it was kind of a soft response. And like, I really just wanted the data point of like, what would this look like at a lower value? So we reduced it 30%. We went from 150 to 95. Average order value reduced 32%. Conversion rate went up 90%. So net profit per visitor is up 25% here. So like, good. Like that, it seems like pretty clearly a win. But even if it were a little bit closer, like let's say if it were like a 10% profit per visitor, it's like, I do think that becomes a question as to like, is that a benefit to the business? Given all the things we mentioned, the lower gross margin, the higher inventory risk, the like, is there some sort of like, do we just like having higher priced products on the site? And like, does that make gunmetal look more affordable? I think it's like a really nuanced thing. But the other one that I would love your guys' take on is if conversion rate doubles and we want to acquire customers on this product, so we've doubled the signal going back to Meta, does that not also dramatically increase our ability to like scale ads? Is it easier to scale with higher conversion rate with more signal? As long as your AOV here is still $120. It's not like we're selling $30 wallets and can't tolerate like a $2 cost per click or something. So I just think there's a lot of balances there. What do you guys think about that price in relation to conversion rate from Meta, ability to optimize, ability to scale?
I mean, it should. I mean, that's how machine learning works, right? Is like the more input you give it, the better it is at doing the thing it was designed to do. So I think the caveat is, as long as you're not passing it like a totally different consumer at a much higher rate, and now it's like, now you're getting all this signal that's not really your core consumer. Clearly that's not what's happening in your situation. Like it seems like it's still a similar consumer. So yeah, I mean, it should improve the ad account's ability to target people and to scale efficiently. I would think.
Yeah, 100%. That's where I think, and what I have to do from here is like, we also have to do a basket analysis. Like I mentioned, the wallet's now at $95. But the AOV is $120. So like even at lower margin on that product, we're still selling quite a few accessories that we're going to have really high margins on. So it's like, anyway, there's just so much value to create outside of like the, unit profit. Especially when you think about LTV, it's like, yeah, if those cohort values are roughly the same, we get another $10 from each of those customers and I'd want 90% more customers. Like that seems pretty straightforward.
We ran a similar test, Connor, during our Mother's Day sale at the beginning of the sale. I like to pepper in, lower value offers to every sale we have. The pushback I always get internally is, well, we're going to cannibalize set sales. And my take is, I think we will a little bit, but not much. And I think the conversion rate bump we'll get way outweighs any sort of AOV drop. So we tested in the first 5-7 days of Mother's Day, we tested only our sets on sale and then our aprons versus our entire stack, which was like sets and then all the individual products. We saw AOV come down like 5%, but conversion rate went up like 20%. Same thing. I'm like, great. We're in a sale, so we are getting way more revenue per user during the sale. And we're still pushing most folks into the sets, which we know have the best lifetime value, like win-win. We're maximizing profit right now and still getting people into the sets that maximize value over time. And now I have data to be like, yes, we should do individual product SKUs. We should do like $200 to $250 offers, as long as the merchandising just has to make sense, right? If our individual products are 30% off, but our sets are 22, okay, well, yeah, of course, we're going to have people going into the individual products. But if the individual products are like 10 to 15, but you get 40% by buying a 12-piece set, like, yeah, we're going to push people into the stuff we want, and we're still going to have these like safety net offers, because I'd rather have someone buy a $220 cart than nothing at all.
100%
is my approach.
100%. Yeah, dude. And I've been geeking out on this for like the last 18 months, just because I think if you're doing tens of millions of dollars a year in revenue, and even more if you're doing whatever you guys are doing, like $100 billion a year at HubSpot. Like small adjustments like that just create so much value. Like it just goes so far. So anyway, I've been thinking a lot about this. Shane's question was good, led nicely into the test of the week. So
I call them like the funnel clearers. Like we just did this with Memorial Day sale, where the last weekend we did a flash sale on knives and a board. It's like we've been running knife sets offers the entire sale. If you haven't converted yet on a set, you're probably not going to convert at this point. All right, well, let's get something in front of you that's different, that's fresh, that's lower barrier to entry. And sure enough, like our individual knives and that board like skyrocketed throughout the weekend. Totally. And we added I haven't looked, but we probably added an incremental 6 figures in revenue on knives that we would not have gotten if we didn't roll that out. Now I was strategic about it. I'm like, let's do it at the end of the sale, because I want everyone to go buy a 7-piece knife set if they want that. Okay, great. Now let's roll it out for the last few days. We saw a big bump in individual knives.
Hell yeah. All right, guys. Anything else you want to talk about?
That was another good quick hits.
Great app. Thanks for hanging. All right. Thank you again to our sponsors, Motion, Rich Panel, Aftersell, Prescient, and House. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment on YouTube, submit Moperators Hotlines questions if you want us to talk about your e-com issues in the future, and share with your friends and family and colleagues. Thanks again for listening.